In the year 1132 of the Years of the Trees, as the moving isle carrying the Vanir and the Noldor disappeared over the western horizon, a profound sense of loss fell upon the Teleri who were left behind on the shores of Beleriand. They wandered the vast lands of Middle-earth, calling day after day for their lost king Elwi, but only the sighing of the wind and the rustle of the forests answered them. At last, upon learning that their kin had been carried away over the sea, Elwi's brother Olwe took up the heavy burden of leadership. He led a part of his people, clinging to a final thread of hope, to the shores of the great sea Balaguer. There, as they stood bewildered by the endless waves, the sea itself seemed to answer their sorrow. Ossi and Uinen, two mayor of Ulmo, Lord of Waters, appeared from amidst the foam. Ossi, the wild and untamed spirit of the sea, was drawn to the mournful songs of the Teleri, and his spouse Uinen, whose long hair spread through the water like seaweed, soothing the coasts, wept for the sundering of the elves. Ossi spoke with the Teleri, teaching them the lore and songs of the ocean, and a deep friendship quietly grew between them amidst the sound of the waves. A year later, in 1133, the Vanir and the Noldor finally reached the end of their journey. As they set foot upon the blessed land and for the first time beheld the light of the two trees with their own eyes, all the weariness and hardship of their travels vanished in an instant. The light was not static. It was like a living thing filled with a holy rhythm and the breath of life, and it permeated their souls, changing them forever. So that these firstborn might have a home, the Vala carved a pass in the high wall of the Pelori Mountains, a gap called the Calasyria, the Pass of Light, allowing the radiance of the two trees to shine through and illuminate a beautiful coastal land to the east of the mountains named Eldamar. It was there, upon the hill of Tuna, that the elves began to build their first and greatest city, Tirion. By the year 1140, the city of Tirion was complete. Its white walls and crystal stairs shone under the everlasting light, and the skilled hands of the Noldor had poured their nostalgia and their awe for the new world into every stone of the city. The tallest structure within was the Silver Lighthouse, the Minden Eldaliva, whose light pierced the mists, becoming an undying star on the coast of Oman. Yet even in this splendid city, the hearts of the elves began to turn in different directions. The Vanir, the golden-haired people, found their souls wholly drawn to the sacred light of the two trees. They gradually felt that Tirion was still too far from the source of that light. And so they began to leave the city, moving to dwell closer to the plains of Valimar where the Vala lived, so that they might bathe in the holy radiance at all times. In the year 1142, to comfort the Noldor in their memory of the silver tree Telperion, Yavanna put forth her power and created a tree in its likeness before the city of Tirion. Though this tree could not give forth light of its own, its silver leaves shimmered in the light of the two trees, as if sprinkled with the dew of a moonlit night. The Noldor treasured this tree, which they named Galathilion, as a bridge between the bliss of Valinor and the starlight of their homeland. Meanwhile, time was also passing in Middle-earth. In 1149, Finwë, king of the Noldor, who deeply missed his friend Elwi and the abandoned Teleri, beseeched Ulmo to lend his aid once more and bring the remaining elves to Oman. Ulmo was moved by his friendship and agreed. However, when Ulmo's summons reached the shores of Middle-earth, the Maya Ossi was filled with great sorrow. Through the years of their fellowship, he had grown to love the Teleri and their singing by the sea. He did not wish for them all to depart. So he went among them, persuading them with the whispers of the waves and the songs of the sea wind to remain. A part of the elves, moved by his love for the sea and because they too had grown to love the coasts of Middle-earth, chose to stay. Their leader was the wise Cerdin, who would become renowned as the shipwright. Under Ossi's tutelage, they built the beautiful havens of Berthombar and Aglarist along the coasts of Beleriand. These Teleri who remained were thenceforth known as the Falathrim, the people of the coast. In the year 1150, Olwe led the great majority of the Teleri aboard the floating island of Tol Eressëa, which Ulmo had once again summoned and set sail for the west. Their hearts were filled with longing for their kin and a yearning for the light. But as they departed, they looked back upon the shores of Middle-earth with a deep fondness for the land where they had lived for so long. And still, in the inland regions of Beleriand, some of the Teleri refused to give up, continuing their search for Elwi in the forests and river valleys. They were called the Iglath, the Forsaken People. The course of fate is woven with wondrous designs. In 1151, as the Isle of Tol Eressëa bearing the Teleri was about to reach Valinor, Ulmo heeded Asia's plea and anchored the island in the Bay of Eldamar, not far from the shores of Aman, yet not touching them. And so the Teleri dwelt upon this lonely isle. They could see the light of Valinor across the water and hear the eternal song of the sea. They became the Falmari, the Sea Elves. Just as the elves of the west were each finding their homes, the mystery in Middle-earth was at last solved. In the year 1152, the long enchantment that lay upon Elwi and Melian was finally broken. They walked hand in hand out of the forest of Nan Elmoth, as if waking from a dream that had lasted for centuries. Elwi's countenance was greatly changed. His silver hair remained, but his eyes shone with a light like that of the two trees, a mark left upon him by the love of Amaya. He had become like a king among the Vala, filled with wisdom and power. All the Aglath who had lingered in Beleriand and many of the Nander gathered to him and took him as their one and only king. He was thereafter known as Eluthingal, the King Greymantle, and his people were called the Sindar, the Grey Elves. On the Isle of Tol Eressëa, the Falmari did not remain isolated forever. In 1161, under the careful tutelage of Asi, they at last mastered the art of shipbuilding to an unparalleled degree. They built many white ships shaped like swans with gilded beaks and eyes of jet. Sailing these beautiful vessels, like a flock of graceful swans, they finally crossed the last strait and set foot upon the land of Aman. In the year 1162, with the help of their kin, the Noldor, they built their port city upon the coast, Alqualand, the haven of the swans. It was a city made of pearl and white stone, and countless lamps shone in its harbor like stars reflected in the water. By the year 1165, the Vanir had completed their migration toward the Holy Light. They left Tirion, the city they had built with the Noldor, and moved entirely to the slopes of Tenaquetal, the holy mountain where Manwë, king of the Vala, dwelt, and to the plains of Valmar. From then on, they lived beside the Vala, and their poetry and music were made only to praise Iluvatar and the two trees. The beautiful white city of Tirion thus belonged to the Noldor alone. Here they honed their crafts and amassed knowledge, and their pride and talent grew ever greater, planting the fateful seeds of the earth-shaking tragedy that was to come.